And welcome into a new hour of CBS Sports HQ. Amanda Guerra, Pete Prisco with you here. We are about to go through your power rankings. So look, it's you and me right now. B-Mac is, I don't know what he's doing. Chris is upstairs eating Halloween candy. Like, are we the only ones working today?
The only ones. This is it.
We're the only ones. Right. So tell us about your power rankings. What was it like making them this week? How are you feeling?
They're getting tougher and tougher. There is a clear top, though. You can see that. That's already been established. But the rest of them, the middle class in the NFL is giant. There's not a lot of great teams right now, and there's some bad ones, but the middle class is enormous.
Much unlike the actual economy that we live in. All right, let's take a look at your power rankings there. He said at the very top, look, there's a clear distinction in what you have right now. Taking a look at 1 through 10, so the top 4 teams, no changes when it comes to the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Vikings. After that, 6 through 10, every team making a little bit of a jump. The biggest being the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey beating up the Rams, moving up 5 spots there to number 10. Taking a look at 11 through 20, 2 big losers you want to note here. Both in New York. You got the Giants dropping 7 spots to number 12 after losing to the Seahawks. Jets also dropping 7 spots to 14th after ending their 4-game winning streak by losing to the Patriots. Of note, the Commanders are the biggest riser. We'll get to that in a second. 21 through 32, just a little bit of a shuffling here. The biggest losers out of this category, the Bears and the Texans, falling a handful of spots. And Pete still calling Trevor Lawrence disappointing this season thus far with the Jags. All right, Pete, we're going to do a little bit of a future looking here. So your top 4 teams, you have the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Vikings, 2 from the AFC, 2 from the NFC. If you had those teams in the conference championships, who's making it to the Super Bowl and then who wins the Super Bowl?
Too bad the Bills and the Chiefs can't play in the Super Bowl because that's the one everybody would love to see. I still think, I picked the Bills to go. I still think they're the best team in the league. And right now, of those 4 teams, I would pick the Eagles. Look, the Eagles are a tough team to defend. They're hard to get ready to play on a week-by-week basis. So I would stick with the Bills. The Bills didn't play great the other night. They really didn't. Josh Allen wasn't as good as he's normally been. But I still think they're the best team. They have the best roster. They're getting guys back. Tre'Davious White's coming back. They're the best team. But I think that when you look at the Eagles, give the Eagles credit. They went out and got guys. I mean, they went out and got A.J. Brown has been a star for them. They went and made the deal to go get him. That's a talented roster as well. So I think if you picked it right now, it would be the Eagles and the Bills.
November 1st is where we are right now, heading into week 9. Let's talk about the Titans moving up 2 spots, coming in at number 6. They beat up the Texans. No Ryan Tannehill. We got to see Malik Willis there. 5-game winning streak, heading to Kansas City on Sunday. I mean, even without this quarterback, what are you seeing now from this team that's so impressive?
Yeah, no offense to Malik Willis, but I could have handed the ball off to Derrick the other day when he won the game. I mean, the guy ran for over 200 yards. He was phenomenal, and that's who they are. And to be that kind of team, though, you eventually have to throw the football. That's where Ryan Tannehill coming back is important for them because you have to get the ball down the field. They don't have a great group of receivers outside. They hope that Treylon Burks down the road can become something. But when you look at this, this team has to throw the ball better, and they're going to need to this week. When they go play the Chiefs, and remember in the playoffs a couple of years ago, they were ahead in that game. They were running the ball. Henry was pounding on guys, but they didn't have enough offense to sustain it, and the Chiefs eventually caught up. So I think this is one of those situations where you can run to try and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field and hope that works, but it usually doesn't. You usually end up running and they end up scoring and you have problems.
Say Tannehill's back. He was apparently just dealing with a stomach bug. So looking ahead, what's your prediction for that game?
Oh, I think the Chiefs are going to beat them. I think that the Titans are a tough, nasty team because they've taken on the personality of their head coach, Mike Vrabel, which is impressive, and they want to run the ball. But they're limited in what they can do in the passing game. They're limited in what they can do defensively. I think this Chiefs team is loaded. We saw what they did to the Niners the week before. And the Niners, we saw what the Niners did to the Rams. So that tells you a lot about the Chiefs.
Let's head out west, specifically to the NFC West. Let's talk about the Seahawks and the 49ers. How interesting this has become. You look at the beginning of the season, you had Trey Lance, you didn't have Christian McCaffrey there, which obviously just changed in the last couple of weeks. And the Seahawks, admittedly, we wrote them off completely. Most of us did, at least.
Oh, I did.
9 and 10 in your power rankings. What is the ceiling for these two teams?
Well, Seattle, you got to give him a lot of credit. You got to give Pete Carroll a lot of credit. He's done a great job with this team. And remember, he traded Russell Wilson. Everybody killed him. Geno Smith has been better than Russell Wilson. I don't think you can say anything different about that. He's been a better quarterback. They can run the ball. They have young talent. They had a terrific draft. They have 6 guys who are contributors from that draft a year ago and big-time players, both starting tackles. They're going to be good players. So this is a young team that's starting to believe in itself. Big game this week at Arizona in the division. We know those are tough. And as for the 49ers, everybody wanted to bury Jimmy Garoppolo. Bury him. Trey Lance, he's the future. The 49ers took a look at what they had in Trey Lance, and they said, hey, maybe we should keep Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're glad they did. The 49ers, when healthy, are as talented as any team in this league, and they're the team that the Eagles and the rest of the NFC should keep an eye on.
Keep an eye on the 49ers, recapping Pete's 1 through 10. By the way, you can see all of these power rankings at cbssports.com. Taking a look at what we got here, the 49ers right now coming in at 10. Pete, off the top of your head, forgive me, who do they play this week? You know? I'm going to look it up.
I did the pick already, so I don't think.
How high could they jump, though? How high do you think you start seeing the 49ers jump? Chargers at 49ers on Sunday, November 13th, so they got a break. Yeah.
No, when you look at them, they could be the best. They could be the best team in the NFC by the end of the year.
Okay.
Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. He's a great play caller. He's got a great defensive coordinator. They have tons of talent. They can rush the passer. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They have stars. This is a star league, and they have stars.
Let's look at some of your biggest risers and your biggest fallers. Your biggest riser, the Commanders, 12 spots. Pete Prisco up to number 18. So last week, not good. They were down at the very bottom. They were 30th here. 3 wins in a row, though. I know you're giving a lot of credit to Taylor Heineke. We love his story there. Does that constitute, though, this big of a jump?
It does, because a lot of those teams in front of them lost, and so I think they deserve to make the jump. When you win 3 games in a row in the NFL, I don't care how you do it, whether it's coming from behind, whether Heineke's playing well, defense is playing better, you got to give them credit for that. So that's why I moved them up. Big game this week, though. Minnesota Vikings. They have the Vikings this week. We'll see. We'll know a lot more about the Washington Commanders this week.
BMAC's not here. I want you to channel your inner BMAC looking ahead to this game. What would he say about it?
Oh, he would pick the Vikings. He picks the Vikings every week. I mean, he does. Hey, the Vikings are and I wrote about them at the top of this article when I did the power rankings. They're the most confusing team of all. How good are they? I mean, they're 6-1. They've ripped off 5 straight. 5 of their 6 wins have come, one-score games, and the only team with a winning record they beat were the Dolphins, who didn't have 2 of that day. So we don't know how good the Vikings are. We're going to find out, because this is a tougher challenge than probably they anticipated a couple weeks ago at Washington.
Commanders, your biggest riser, jumping a whopping 12 spots. You had 2 biggest losers this week, both in New York. You had the Jets and the Giants, both with disappointing losses. Which team this past weekend was more disappointing?
The Jets.
Okay.
I mean, you're at home. I thought the Giants were in a bad spot. They went to Jacksonville, went home, had to go all the way out west to Seattle. They travel like you do these days.
Yeah.
They go all over the world, and it was a tough trip for them. And, oh, by the way, they fumbled the punt twice to set them up in point-blank range. You don't win games like that. That's not the Giants team. They can't overcome stuff like that. But the Jets, Zach Wilson was awful. You have a New England team coming off a terrible home loss to the Bears, and you're supposed to be a team that can make noise in that division, and Zach Wilson was terrible in that game. He's got to be better. I don't care how much young talent that they've assembled, and they have. They've done a nice job. The quarterback has to play better.
Which team do you have more faith in?
The Giants.
Okay.
Yeah, the Giants, for sure. I think, I don't know if either one of them are going to be playoff teams, although the Giants are off to a better chance, but I think the Giants are the better team right now.
Especially with the Eagles on top of them in that division, looking great, and an easier
Cowboys
schedule.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there. Okay, you talked about the playoffs. Let's look ahead to the playoffs, November 1st. Entering week 9, where things stand right now, taking a look at the picture in the NFC, we're going to begin with that, then we'll move over to the AFC. So your division leaders, Eagles, Vikings, Seahawks, Falcons, a couple wild card teams there in the Cowboys, the Giants, the 49ers. Pete, I want to look at the NFC South, though. Falcons in, Bucks out. Do you foresee that changing? And also, how surprised are you with what has gone on with the Falcons? Because at the beginning of the season, we were saying with the Texans, they're one of the 2 worst teams in the league.
Yeah, Arthur Smith's done a heck of a job. I mean, he's a good coach. You can see it when you watch them on tape. You can see when you watch the team play. They play hard. They play tough. They're well schemed up. He does a great job. They're limited talent-wise, and they're in the first place in that division. Will they stay there over the course of the rest of the season? No. I think Tampa Bay will get it right. I think Tampa Bay will find a way. And watch out for New Orleans. Before the season, I thought the Saints would win that division, and I said because of the defense, and the defense was off to a terrible start. They're coming off a shutout of the Raiders, and I tell you what, they dominated them from start to finish. they look like there were 12 guys on the field at all times on that defense, and that's a good sign going forward. So keep an eye on the Saints as well.
So looking at that division right now with the Falcons on top, we know everything that's going on with the Bucs, on the field, off the field, a lot of drama. You think they're going to get it right. Keep an eye on the Saints. Who wins the division then? You still say the Saints?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. The Saints, I do think the Saints are going to win the division. I do. Okay. I picked them before the season. I'm going to stick with them. That defense is too good.
Okay, really quickly, let's go to the AFC playoff picture right now. Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. We've all seen what's unfolded so far this season. Bad loss to the Browns, or excuse me, they played, to the Browns.
Terrible loss.
Can they get it right?
They can. I mean, that was the first
Will
game.
they get it right?
Yes, they will. That was the first game without Jamar Chase. That was tough to deal with. You're on the road. It's a Monday nighter. It's a tough situation. They had become a team that had got back to what they were, which is throwing the football and throwing it down the field. You know, when Chase is taken out of the equation, it's different. You have to adjust to it. He's going to be out for a couple weeks, but I think they'll be fine. Joe Burrow's too good. They'll get back into the mix.
Back in the mix, but how many Super Bowls in the next 10 years?
I mean,
we're just going to keep worrying.
It was 1 in 10. It was 1 in 10. Although certain
maybe
people,
two.
Certain people in this building have taken my words out of context and said it was 2 in 10. It was 1 in 10.
Maybe 2. All right, guys. Thanks so much. By the way, Brian McFadden could not join us today, but he does have a podcast, so you can download and follow that. All things covered with our good friend B-Mac there, and his cousin Pat P. Of course, they always talk about the Vikings. Their latest episode, Todd Gurley joining the show to discuss his running back influences, and should he have won the 2017 MVP award? Download and follow. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.